Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we're going to make sure that we are addressing the idea of how to launch your brand on social media, because it is super important to be able to know how to do this. Now, these tips or things that I need you to consider, especially when it comes to understanding how to launch your brand on social media, it applies to whether you have a product, service, or whatever it may be, kind of a business, okay? It applies to all things when it comes to promoting what it is that you're doing, okay? Or even raising awareness about the cause that you're trying to raise awareness about. Now, before we get stuck into this particular video, as always, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because I share content just like this. And I want to make sure, more importantly, that you realize that you are more than what you see. Now, what I mean by that is I'm always coming across a lot of prospects, and more specifically people who are understanding that, you know what, I just work on this surface level, yeah? This is what I do. But no, the reality is that you do a hell of a lot more. So now I want you to really establish and realize what that actually is, because that's how you make those connections that you were looking for. That's how you move forwards in a way that's congruent to your standard of beliefs. And equally, that's how you make sure you start getting the results that you're looking for. Now, that being said, stick around to the very, very end, because as always, I've got some super cool information. Not only information, but key principles to make sure that you keep taking the action off the back of what I've just shared with you. Because for me, that's what's more important to me, is to make sure that you know how to keep moving forwards. Because I'm sure you've come across a lot of videos where they'll tell you the facts, they will tell you the information, which is great. However, you then won't know what to do next. I'm going to share with you what to do next. So now let's get stuck into it so you can find out exactly what that stuff is. So, okay, as I said to you, we are going to be talking about what key things to consider, especially when it comes to launching your brand on social media. Now, these key things are not only things that I've used myself when I'm launching a product or launching a book or launching the awareness of something that I really want others to know and understand, but they're equally key things that I've helped clients to do as well. So now, in order to make sure that you are launching your brand specifically in a way that's congruent to your standards and beliefs, but in a way that really helps others to know and understand the mission that you're on, this is what you need to not only consider, but equally do as well. Now, the first thing that I want to make sure that you are considering is the idea of time. So consider time. Consider the idea of what is happening around you. And what I mean by that is what is going on culturally, what is going on environmentally, what is going on topically. What are the topical issues that are happening out there? How can they actually relate to the item or the thing or the service or the awareness that you're trying to build? For example, if it's the idea of a product that's there to help better being or help better self or help better your well-being more specifically, why not think about the environment that we're living in, right? So you could relate it to an environmental issue, talk about sustainability in terms of understanding what's going on in the world. We're all about renewable energy, but we're also, on this momentum of go, 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 go. But reality is that if we keep go, 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 going, we're also going to be draining ourselves out. So that means that we're not necessarily going to be looking after self. Now, with self in mind, stay tuned or know that something good is coming, and I want to share it with you on X and Y and Z date. So think about what that item could actually be for yourself, and think about your example for your own self and how you can actually push that forwards and how you can actually relate it to time. So the second thing that I want you to now consider, right, is the idea of seed. And by seed, I'm talking about the idea of leaving little breadcrumbs or leaving or even planting the seed in somebody's mind as to what's coming up. You want to create that level of intrigue, but without saying the actual answer. That's the key thing right there, folks. Now, if you are bad at keeping secrets, work on this part because you want to make sure that you keep this particular part of the secret, as in the answer. However, what you do want to give away is the value that it can provide for people. Meaning that if, for example, we're going to stick to the health and well-being sort of example, right? Now, if, for example, think about what is a typical problem that people face when it comes to health and well-being. Well, 9 times out of 10, maybe it's probably down to the idea of not having a functionable day. meaning that they are losing focus, meaning that they are they don't know where to start, they start all haphazardly. So what's a quick win for them that they could have that will allow them to start their day just by breathing, just by simply just taking in with one thing at a time? What is that thing? What is that quick win that you can provide for people? But at the same time, you leave it there, and then you want to leave a call to action at the very end of that, pretty much saying something along the lines of, there's more coming. There's more that I want to share with you on, and then give the date that you want to share on. Okay? So remember, you're creating that level of intrigue. You're creating that level of wanting to know more. But you can only do that by seeding and not giving the entire answer away. Now, this third thing that you want to consider is essentially appreciating what I've just said, which is the idea of call to action, but the idea of action now in a different kind of a light, creating a sense of urgency and creating a sense of scarcity. And here's why I say that. People are bombarded with a lot of action taking, with a lot of call to actions, with a lot of things to do, especially when it comes to launches, right? They get it. They understand what, and they know what's happening, right? They've now picked up the things that you're laying down, right? They're picking up what they're laying down, what you're laying down. So now help them to really, really take action. What is your scarcity item? What is your urgency item? Do they need to be the first 10 of the people who actually sign up to your product or your service or to this thing that you are launching? Do they need to make sure that they are in there before 12 p.m. midnight to be able to make sure that they can take advantage of that offer? What are you going to give them in return in order to be able to make sure that that scarcity and urgency factor is actually being met? So think about how you can make sure that you are delivering what you're delivering, especially when it comes to inviting them to find out even more about what the awareness that you're trying to build here. And when you're launching your brand, how are you making sure that if they are either the first 10 or first 5, or they are reaching you before midnight on a certain date, how are you making sure that they are definitely going to make sure that they make that move? Because people will talk, right? We know that. But what's going to be the difference between the talkers and the doers, right? Your urgency and your scarcity factor will help them to be the doers even more so. So that being said, folks, I'm going to leave it right there. Please make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel once again. But equally, also share with me in the comments how you found this video. Let me know, did it help you? But equally, if you tried these things already, again, let me know in the comments section how it's actually helped you. Because, as I said, these are things that I've done myself, and equally these are things that I've also helped my clients with as well. And in order to be able to make sure that they keep up with the momentum, I also share these key principles, and it's something that I also want to share with you now. So in the description part now, underneath this particular video, click on that first link, just the first link, right? When you click on that first link, you're going to be taken to a page which, yes, it will ask you for a few details. When you fill in those few details, this is what I want to make sure happens next, okay? I want you to, off the back of me sending you the key principles in order to be able to make sure that you now elevate your brand in the best possible kind of a way, I want you to actually download the document that I send you. Do not leave it festering in your inbox or your spam folder. Please do not do that. Actually use it and actually take action, because when you start actioning it, you can actually keep actioning it. Because I know we live in an information heavy based industry, right? So that means that you're going to get a lot of information fired at you. What I want to make sure that you do is get to grips with these key principles, which are nice, short, sharp, and easy. By the way, folks, it is not reams and reams of pages full of documents. No, I'm not about that life. So I'm all about making sure that you get things delivered to you in short, sharp, bite-sized bits of information that still help you to reach your goals in a way that's congruent once again to your standards and your beliefs. These key principles will help you to understand how to elevate your brand, but not only that, they will help you to know how to show up on your social media platforms as well in a way that once again is congruent to your standards and beliefs. So folks, go ahead, click on that link, fill in your information, and equally get to grips with all those key principles. And make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the other side.